Welcome back, everyone. No matter where you are, no matter what time it may be, I hope y'all are doing well out there. You guys probably get tired of hearing me say it, but I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you taking time to be here with me tonight. This channel keeps moving forward because of all of you, the folks who tune in, leave comments, and share your encounters. So thank you for being part of what we've built together. Also, if you've had an encounter of your own and you'd like to share it here on the channel, do not hesitate to reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. My email address will be linked in the description below this video. Regarding tonight's theme, now we've done a few of these in the past, and I've been saving these up for another round. These encounters didn't come in from hunters or someone camping in the woods. These are from men and women in uniform, state troopers, deputies, wardens, border patrol, people who are trained to keep calm, to make reports, and to stay level-headed no matter what they face. But even they found themselves shaken when they cross paths with something that cannot be explained. Everyone lock in, and let's begin. Grab a drink, lock your doors and windows, hit the lights, and let's get started. Hello, Reels. I've been serving with the Montana Highway Patrol since 2009. I've done this job long enough to see plenty of horrible things and horrible situations that I wish I could forget. That stuff alone will keep anyone awake at night, or at least it should if you're human. But what I'm about to tell you doesn't fit into any of that. This happened in 2021, and I still think about it almost every night, even when I'm on shift. It was after 1 a.m. It was in late summer. I was on Highway 212. If you've ever driven that stretch between Broadus and the Wyoming line, you know what I mean when I say it feels like the middle of nowhere, because it is. There's no businesses out there, no real traffic, especially late at night. You get long straight runs where you can see a couple miles ahead, then some dips and curves that'll swallow your headlights whole. I came across a silver sedan parked on the shoulder with no hazards on. Out there, that's usually a bad sign. Someone's drunk, they've broken down, or it could be a medical emergency or something worse. I pulled in behind it, flipped on my lights, and walked up to the driver's side. I always try to stay on my P's and Q's. I like to think of myself as a person who's rational, who's ready for anything. I'm constantly very aware of my surroundings. I was not ready for this. The car was completely empty. The door was halfway open, the keys still dangling in the ignition. I yelled out a few times and shined my light around, but there wasn't anyone standing nearby anywhere. I wondered if maybe they had made their way off into the brush to relieve themselves. That's not a very smart or safe thing to do, but I've seen a lot stranger. After a few seconds of standing there, wondering what the hell was going on, I saw something up ahead on the highway move. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that I thought it was this, or maybe it was that. I saw what I saw, and there's no real explanation for it. It was upright. It did look like a dog and had dog or wolf-like features, but there was nothing canine about this thing. It did not move on all fours, it was moving on two legs. It walked out and my headlights were square on it. I saw it very clearly. clear enough that I have not a single doubt of what I was looking at. This thing had the body shape of a very large male human, but everything else just looked like wolf. This screamed werewolf. There's no better word to describe it. I've seen bear in the wild stand on their hind legs. This thing was easily double the size of any bear I've ever seen. We locked eyes. It was just a glossy reflection, like when you shine a light on a deer, but with intent behind it. It wasn't afraid of me. Not at all. It wasn't attempting to run. It was standing there like it was studying me, the same way I was trying to make sense of it. This has never happened ever in my career before or since. My hand went to my pistol, but I couldn't bring myself to draw. I've been in situations where my life was on the line, and my training kicked in without even a thought. For some reason, this was different. Something inside my stomach told me that pulling that gun would be the wrong move, and I cannot explain why. We both stood there staring, waiting for each other to make the first move, and it wasn't going to be me. I knew I was outmatched. There's no way that I could defend myself against this thing if it decided it wanted me. In the biggest feeling of relief I've ever felt, it finally turned and walked off back into the dark, into the brush, like it was walking through a doorway. I heard no sound whatsoever. This thing was just gone. After it left, my mind started wondering even more. Where was the driver of this vehicle? Had this thing taken this person? Did this person walk away to get help and not even see this creature? What happened to the driver? I searched around with my light for quite a while, calling out, getting no reply. The whole highway was silent. It was clear that there was no one else out there. If they were, then either they couldn't hear me, and I didn't want to think about any reasons why they weren't answering me back. It could have been one of two things. This person could have an active warrant or just committed some type of crime, or this thing had put them in a situation where they would not be able to respond. Either one was definitely bad news. I finished the call by logging the car as abandoned. Dispatch followed up the next day and had it towed. No missing person report, no police follow-up, nothing. Just another empty vehicle on the side of the road. People can hide this, they can deny it, but I know what I saw. That definitely wasn't some person in a costume. It wasn't a wolf standing weird. It was something that should not exist, and I watched it walk across the highway, right in front of me. Even though I looked straight at it, I never wrote it in my official report. That's the safe way to play it. Imagine if you write werewolf down in a patrol log, you're done. But it's been a heavy burden to carry. I've told exactly 2 people about it. My wife, who didn't know what to say, and one other trooper who just gave me a long look and said, "You too, huh?" That was it. He apparently had encountered something himself, but was unwilling to share anything about what happened. I can't say as I blame him. Look at how people act when you come forward with something like this. Anyway, now I'm putting it here. Make of it what you want, but for me, that night changed how I look at every mile of road that I drive. I'm not afraid of drunk drivers or wrecks. I know how to handle those situations. What I saw on that road, I don't have a plan for that, and I hope I don't need one. Anonymous. Active Highway Patrol. I've been active with the Border Patrol for 8 years now, mostly night sectors along the Rio Grande. I'm not going to give my name here, although it doesn't matter. Anyone that knows anything about this subject knows if someone hears this, someone listens, and they want to find you, they will. That being said, I hope you understand that this is not a safe thing to discuss, especially on social media. But the truth needs to be told. People need to be warned. People deserve to know. This was 3 years ago, in the spring. Me and my partner were on a fixed watch, 2 vehicles, 1 mile apart, scanning the fence line. Standard night. We were bored as hell, which is the worst part of this job sometimes. Bored people miss things that should not be missed. That night, we were ready. Around 2 or 2:30 in the morning, my mirror pinged with a motion alert from the camera on the west tower. I checked my tablet and saw something moving along the floodplain. It was coming toward the fence. I thought, smugglers. We radio in a movement, and both cars start converging slow. No lights. Keep it quiet. But as we closed in, I could see something bounding across the scrub toward the fence. This was not a person running. It cleared the fence in one motion. I mean, like a deer but on 2 legs. My stomach fell through the floor. Everyone trains for smugglers or runners, but nothing trains you for something like this. How do you train for something that isn't supposed to be real? Your brain will, in fact, completely reboot when you see this. In the beam of my handheld, this thing stopped after clearing the fence. It looked back at us. It had the shape of a man standing upright, shoulders, chest, the stride, but everything from the neck up was canine. Huge snout, pointed ears, covered in fur. If I had to say it plain, it just looked like a giant wolf that learned to walk. It turned its entire body around to face us. I thought we were about to have a firefight right then and there with whatever this is. Out of nowhere, I'll describe it as best I can. If you took a wolf howl and mixed it with a grown man being tortured as he screamed, that's what we heard. It turns its attention away from us and looking toward the direction of the sound. Then it took off downriver away from the road toward the sound. Me and my partner stood our ground and kept watch for about an hour. Nothing else showed. I did fill the log later as possible wildlife encounter, unknown. The supervisor asked if we saw any footprints or signs or what exactly we meant by unknown. We didn't find anything. As soon as he heard that, he just dropped it. He told us to keep it quiet on the radio unless something shows again. That felt like an order and like a blessing at the same time. After all the things I've witnessed on the job, I've seen things that I won't even dare discuss here. Unimaginable horrors of humanity. But this, I couldn't sleep for months after seeing it. I told one of the older agents about it about a week later. He grabbed me, pulled me off to the side, and lowered his voice and said, "You saw nothing." Just remember you saw nothing. Don't mention it again to me or anyone else." That scared the hell out of me, so you can imagine I don't talk about this very much at all. I don't tell my family. My kids would definitely not need to hear this, as I feel like knowing about them puts you in danger in some way. I keep all of this to myself, to keep the people around me safe. I know that's a contradiction, so what do? You keep it from them to keep them safe. And if you don't tell them, then they don't know what's out there, and that puts them in danger. If you do tell them, then just them knowing about it puts them in danger. So what exactly are you supposed to do with this type of information? If anyone has any suggestions, I'm all ears. The weirdest part of all of this to me is how ordinary we tried to make all of this after it happened. We logged it and moved on. That's the job. You file paperwork, you say it was probably coyotes or whatever you want to put down. You drive the route again tomorrow. But that night just chews at the back of my mind. Almost every single time I'm on watch. I'm always looking, always waiting, keeping my lights on a little longer. You don't stop doing your job, but you will do it a little differently. Border Patrol, Sector, Texas. Name's Bill. Deputy in a small county up in the Appalachians. Been on the job 15 years. I grew up here. My family's been running in these hollers a long time. If you know the mountains, you know the summer bugs will sing a song and winters will bite your bones. Folks around here don't go poking at strange things. They mind their own business, mostly. That's why when I say I saw something, I don't usually tell people. But this is something that I can't shake. It was late spring, early summer, about 11:30 p.m. I'd just finished a wreck report. 2 vehicles, fender bender on a tight curve near Little Pine Hollow. I was wrapping up writing notes on a clipboard in my cruiser. The highway there drops down into a little valley, and there's this old farmhouse about a half mile off the road. Folks call it the McKee's place. Always dark at night, unless somebody's home. A local lady called 911 earlier that evening. Said she saw someone peeking through her windows over by the old McKee's place. Weird, but not unheard of. Kids messing around, it could be anything. I told dispatch I'd swing by after I finished with the wreck. So I did. I pulled up slow with the spotlight sweeping the yard and the trees. Everything was quiet. Then I shone the light across the field and caught a flash of quick movement out by the trees. It was probably about 80 yards away. Your first thought is a deer. That's my go-to anyway. These things are everywhere. But then it moved to an upright position and posture and just casually walked into my light. Now this SOB was bold. Anyone that thinks these things are afraid or don't want you to see them, you can think again. Or at least this one didn't give 2 rats' asses. He stepped out there just as pretty as you please. To an untrained eye at a pretty far distance, you would think that this was just a large man standing in the road. That is until you get close enough to see that it isn't. It's extremely tall, sure, and covered in thick hair like it had been living in the woods. God, the head. It had a giant dog's head. It had a face that just looked like a wolf, and it had a snout and teeth that looked like they were meant for shredding and tearing into meat. It was standing like a human, and it was now watching me. The light didn't seem to bother it at all. I called in and said I was on scene. Possible suspicious person. My voice probably sounded ridiculous to dispatch, but I didn't want to be that deputy who laughs at a call. I eased forward in the cruiser with the spotlight on low. I remember thinking, don't spook it. Don't be dumb. I kept my palm on the door ready to open it if I needed to, but I didn't get out. This thing never made any move to run. It didn't make any noises. It just turned its head slowly like it heard something far off in the distance. It looked back at me. It didn't seem aggressive in any way. Not that I could really tell. Who the hell knows? It was definitely watching, the way that a farmer watches a storm that's about to hit. I don't know if it was curious or just counting me as part of the night's background or its next meal. How do you read something like that? Then something in the way that it moved. Not quick. It just made my skin crawl on the bone. I thought about my training. I thought about my kid's face if something happened to me. For reasons I cannot explain, I backed up and put the cruiser between me and it and called for another unit. I didn't want to walk towards whatever that was. The backup came slow because this county is small and everyone else was sleeping. When the other deputy rolled up and we swept the area together, it was gone. 1 minute that thing was in the light, the next minute nothing. I heard no sounds, I didn't see it move, I kept a pretty close eye on it. I still don't know how it got gone so fast. We checked the house, knocked on the doors of the nearest neighbors, asked if anyone saw anything or heard anything. One old man said, "You fellas probably just saw some coyotes." He laughed like he was dismissing his own spine tingle. The deputy and I traded looks and just said clear on the radio. But later the deputy pulled me aside and said, "You sure you didn't see a bear?" We both knew the answer to that question. I know what a damn bear looks like. I'm not an idiot. After that night, the McKee's lady called again a few nights later. She said she heard something walking around out big on her porch. I drove over and sat in my cruiser for about an hour or so. Nothing came close. The lady was pretty shaken up and wanted extra patrol. I told her I'd do what I could. I checked in with my sergeant the next day and he just told me to be careful talking about things like this. He said, follow the policy. If you say anything else, you start a rumor, and folks call for hunters and flashlights and panic. We don't need that. The thing about it is, now I don't like sleeping with my windows open like I used to. I check the locks now twice. If my wife hears enough of the bump in the night stories, she worries. I just tell her it's a raccoon or raccoons to keep her calm. That deputy that was out there, he won't camp in the hollers anymore, and he used to live for it. He says he sleeps with a little light on in the truck. We don't talk about it at the station much. You'd think we would. Other deputies have had weird calls as well. But most of the talk is just jokes, grumbles about overtime, kids getting in trouble. It's safer that way. A rumor about something strange will turn into a dozen wild stories by morning. Coffee, and that does nobody any good. That's why we keep it simple on paper. Sometimes I'll just drive past the old McKee's place during the day. I'll stop and roll the windows down and just listen. Mostly, you just hear crickets. I think about the night and how ordinary everything felt until it wasn't. I don't want to be the guy who says he saw monsters and scares folks, but I also can't unsee the way it looked standing there like it was waiting for something. Maybe it was waiting for me to drive off. Maybe it was waiting for me to get out. Maybe it was just part of the woods and I was the odd one in its view. I don't know. I'm not what you'd call a superstitious man. I believe in evidence, but whatever it was, it left me with this knot in my chest when I'm out alone at night in the hills. I do my rounds a little differently now. I walk the edges a bit slower. I keep my light on near the trees. I don't tell the deputies' wives. They don't need it. I'm not sure anyone needs to know except to say something's out there and it's not right. It's not wolf, it's not man, and if you see it, be careful how close you get. Bill, North Carolina. Reels. My name is Scott. I've been a game warden up here in Wisconsin for going on 20 years now. I know these woods about as well as you'd expect someone who basically lives in them. My whole life's been spent outside, hunting, fishing, tracking. If it moves out here, I've probably seen it. Or at least I thought I had. This was about 5 years ago. It was early fall. The temperatures were starting to drop and the leaves were starting to change. I was out running a late patrol in the northern part of the county. My job that week was checking on reports of night hunters. Folks like to spotlight deer after hours, and it's my responsibility to catch 'em. Most nights it's pretty boring. You just sit in your truck, you watch, maybe you catch somebody with a light and a rifle. That night I parked up on a ridge that overlooked a long stretch of pines and a cut cornfield. Perfect spot to sit and wait. Around 10 p.m. I started hearing movement down below me. Heavy enough to be a person, slow enough that I thought maybe I had my hunters. I got my binoculars and started scanning the trees. I'll never forget what I saw. About 50 yards from the edge of the cornfield, something stepped out where the moon hit. Now, I've listened to your channel, and I know people get tired of hearing this, but what else do you think? I thought that this was a bear standing up. The only problem is, bears don't stand and then continue walking for that long. This thing was upright the whole time. It had shoulders like a man, but its head was definitely of canine sorts. It had a long muzzle, and it had fur that was covering everything I could see. It looked like a wolf, but it was walking steadily on 2 legs. It didn't act like it cared if I was there. I was sitting in my truck, downwind, the engine off. I don't think it even noticed me. It just walked the edge of that cornfield slow like it was hunting itself. The way it moved, this thing had a purpose. It knew exactly where it wanted to be and where it wanted to go. This did not behave like an animal would. This thing was intelligent. Very intelligent. Its movements, its behavior, its mannerisms were very close to a human. I didn't report it to anyone. I knew about this subject years before I had this encounter, so I knew better. When you mention this, if you even tell someone who knows about it and they know it's real, what they do is they'll make a joke of you. They'll laugh at you and destroy your credibility in a heartbeat. That's a good way to silence people. You can't tell someone what you saw if no one believes it. Pretty simple stuff, really. It's best to keep it to yourself and don't tell anyone, really. That's usually what keeps the peace and keeps your credibility intact. but it doesn't help your sanity. I've tracked wolves plenty of times before. You know, the real ones. They move quick, light, low to the ground. This didn't do any of that. This thing was heavy, had some weight to it. But it wasn't clumsy. It had presence. That's the best way I can explain it. Now, it don't affect me that much. I'll still do my job. But I don't go walking into the trees alone after dark. You can call me cautious, call me superstitious, I don't really care. I know what's out there. And if there's something out there standing upright that big with a wolf's head and a man's body, then I've got no business chasing it with a flashlight and a sidearm. No one does. That won't save you. That was the only time I saw it. And trust me, once is plenty enough. Scott. I've been with Ohio State Highway Patrol since 2010. I've worked every shift you can think of, days, nights, weekends. Most of the time I just deal with drunk drivers or speeders. Occasionally you run into people broke down on the shoulder, but you learn to keep a straight face and deal with whatever comes. That's the job. I remember this night very vividly. It was cold. It was in 2019, I'd say around 2 a.m. I was on a stretch of 2-lane outside of Zanesville. Hardly any traffic, just an odd semi rolling through. I'd pulled over a guy earlier who was doing 20 over the limit. I wrote him a warning, let him go. After that, I was parked on the shoulder, finishing up paperwork. Out of nowhere, a car comes flying past me, doing at least 90. I lit it up and caught up quick. The guy finally pulled over just before an old bridge crossing. I walked up like normal. The driver, a middle-aged man, rolled his window down, and before I could even say anything, he blurts out, "I'm not staying out here. That thing is on the road." I tried to calm this fella down, but he was losing his mind. I asked him what he meant, and he kept saying it was in the lane, it was right there. It looked like a dog, but it was standing up. This guy was shaking. I figured he was either drunk or on some type of drugs. I told him to sit tight, and I'd take a look. I did not expect to see anything, but it was my duty to at least check. I walked back toward my cruiser and shined my light down the road. This guy wasn't on drugs, 'cause I saw it too. It was about 60 yards ahead, right in the middle of the lane. It was tall, very tall, I'm guessing 6-7 feet. A dog should not be able to stand, and it definitely shouldn't be 7 feet tall if it did. My first thought was this has to be someone wearing something, but the way that it stood, the broadness of the chest and the shoulders, it was covered in dark black hair. I could clearly see a long snout that was kind of skinny, it wasn't thick, and it had ears sticking straight up. This wasn't a costume, there's no way. It stood there long enough for my light to hit it in the face. Its eyes reflected a bright orange color. But most animals, when a light hits them, they will usually hunch down, get low, and run off. It was just standing there, staring right back at me. I locked up for a second, then took a couple steps closer. I just couldn't believe this thing was actually there. My hand was on my light bar switch, ready to flood the road. Before I could, it turned and took off into the brush at the side of the bridge. This thing made no sound at all as it moved. I was shook, but I held it together. I went back to the driver and told him I didn't see anything now. The road was clear. He didn't want to stay another second, so I let him go. I figured he wasn't drunk, 'cause I just saw it too. The poor guy was just scared out of his mind, and honestly, so was I. I didn't know what to say. That's been many, many years ago. And even now, every time I get near that bridge, I catch myself slowing down, looking harder at the shoulders. Part of me wants to see it again just to know that I wasn't losing my mind. The other part hopes that I don't. I'm not out here chasing stories. I've got a family, kids are in school, a mortgage just like everyone else. I do my job and go home. But that night put a dent in how I look at the world. Some things out here just won't fit into your neat little box, and I don't think they ever will. I know everyone wants their answers to their questions, but I'm not optimistic that we'll get them. But keep digging, I suppose. Just be careful. Anonymous. Hello, brother. Now, I don't want anyone, you or anyone else, to believe me just because of who I am and what I do for a living. I've been a state trooper in the Midwest for a little over 15 years. I've had to draw my weapon a handful of times in that career, and I've fired it even less. Every time I did, the situation was over quick. A person goes down, an animal runs off, whatever. That's the way the world works. At least that's the way you think that it works, until something like this happens. Then everything gets twisted. Nothing makes sense. It was a clear fall night around 3 a.m. back in 2017. I was patrolling a rural stretch of highway. There's nothing out there but cornfields and patches of woods here and there. I came around a bend and saw something step out onto the road about 100 yards ahead. I couldn't make it out very well at that distance at night. It's fairly common for wildlife to cross the highway, so just regular animal is all your brain comes up with. I tapped the brakes and slowed down, but this thing wasn't moving like a deer or something else. It walked straight out into the lane and stopped, upright. When my headlights hit it and I got a little closer, my whole body went numb. It wasn't a man, it wasn't a bear. It had the frame of a man, but it was covered in hair or fur. The head was a damn wolf's head, pointed ears, long snout. Its teeth was showing like it was growling or grinning. I've heard people say they grin, but to me this just looked like a growl. I stopped the cruiser, grabbed the spotlight, and got out. My instinct was to order it off the road like I was dealing with some drunk stumbling around. But as soon as I stepped onto the pavement, the thing let out this deep growl. It wasn't loud, but it was low, like it was letting me know the road belonged to it at the moment, and I'd better learn my place with the quickness. Out of instinct, I drew my sidearm immediately. I gave a command, "Show me your hands," and I know that sounds ridiculous, but that's what came out of my mouth. It didn't move, it just kept standing there looking at me. I fired once, center mass. The thing jerked like it was hit, but then it straightened right back up. It didn't go down, it didn't scream out in pain. Nothing. I fired again and again. I put 4 rounds into it, all in the chest. I know I hit it. I'm not some rookie spraying shots, but it just wouldn't go down. It did stagger once like somebody taking a punch, then let out a sound that I won't be able to forget. It was a half growl mixed with a bark and some sort of scream of pain. It was deeper than anything a dog could make. At that point, I was screaming into the radio, calling for backup, backing toward my cruiser. The thing just looked at me. Its eyes were glowing a blue color in my light. Then it just turned, not quick, not like it was wounded. It just turned its back in my direction and walked off into the corn like none of that had just happened. I just stood there bewildered and shaking, my pistol still up, waiting for it to come back out. It never did. Backup showed up 20 minutes later. Backup showed up about 20 minutes later. I told them shots were fired at an unknown animal that tried to attack me. I didn't know what else to say. I told them it ran off into the fields. They swept the area with me. We didn't find a damn thing. No blood, no tracks we could follow, no body. Just silence and corn. I didn't sleep for 2 days after that. My brain just could not make sense of it. You spend your life trained that a bullet stops a threat. That's the rule. That's what keeps you alive in this job. But I saw something that broke that rule, and I don't know how to process it. I don't tell this story at the station. I don't tell it at home. My wife knows I had a bad call that week, but that's all she knows. If I told her what really happened, I don't even want to know what she would think. She would probably think I lost my mind. And maybe I did, because sometimes I think that myself. This monster shrugged off 4 rounds to the chest like it was nothing, like a mosquito bite. The worst part is knowing I'll never get an answer. Was it flesh and blood? Is it something else? All I know is bullets didn't matter that night, and that scares me more than anything. I admire what you're doing. You're a braver man than me sitting out there alone at night. I know you Kentucky boys carry, but I'm here to tell you, I don't think it's going to help you. My best advice is you boys stay out of those woods at night and watch your back. This isn't a normal creature. Anonymous. Friends, legends, family. That's where we'll leave it for tonight. I hope you enjoyed this one, and if you did, don't forget to hit that like button and drop a comment below. I read as many of them as I can, and it really does help keep these stories reaching more people. If you're new and you haven't subscribed yet, now would be a good time to do it. I've got plenty more encounters on the way. I'm buried in them, actually. You won't want to miss what's coming in the future. A huge thanks to all of these people that sent these encounters in. I want to thank each one of them for their service to our community, to protect and serve. Not to mention it takes a lot of guts to come forward and share something like this with thousands of people you don't know. Each one of you has my admiration, my thanks, and my respect. Y'all stay safe out there on those roads. This world is getting more dangerous by the day. And also a big thanks to you legends out there that are still listening. You guys you're the best. You're the absolute best. And I truly mean that. You guys are amazing. And all of you channel members, you know who you are. You guys continue to support what I'm doing here. You make all of this possible. Thank you. Truly. That's enough rambling from me, if anyone's even actually still listening at this point. Until we meet again, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. I love each and every one of you. Until next time, my friends, watch over your loved ones. Keep your head on a swivel. And as always, good night.